Welcome to Let's Talk Passion and Purpose, the podcast where we explore the journeys of creators, leaders, and visionaries who've turned their passions into purpose. Join your host, Nicole Thomas, as we dive into inspiring stories, uncover strategies for success, and help you take the next step toward a life filled with meaning. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Let's Talk Passion and Purpose with Nicole Thomas. In this episode, I sit down with artist Bryant, and he shares his journey of embracing his creative identity and discovering the power pursuing artistic passions. No matter when you start, Bryant's story is filled with valuable insights from treating your craft like a business and pricing your work with confidence to using social media strategically to build exposure. He challenges the idea of creative blocks, and our conversation dives into the realities of navigating the art world, building a personal brand, and staying authentic in a competitive creative space. Most importantly, this interview will inspire you to bet on yourself, break traditional barriers, and remember that your unique creative voice is your greatest asset. A little bit about Bryant. Bryant Small is a distinguished artist and curator recognized for his innovative and inclusive approach to exhibition design. His curatorial projects are known for their thoughtful curation, bringing together different mediums and styles in ways that provoke thought and foster dialogue among audiences. With a commitment to pushing the boundaries of traditional curation and a focus of inclusivity, Bryant continues to shape the contemporary art landscape, making a lasting impact on both artists and audiences. Bryant is also co-founder and artist in residence for KAAI, where generative AI-powered UI tools enable artists, creators, and brands to create and sell unique digital and physical products at scale. Bryant Small's work has been featured in galleries, museum exhibitions across the country, earning him accolades and a growing following among art enthusiasts and collectors alike. His unique approach to both creating and curating art continues to inspire and influence the contemporary art scene. Bryant, welcome to the show. So excited to have you here with us today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
To get started, how did your journey as a creative begin? What first sparked your interest in art and curation?
I was born a creative. So I was a creative child, and it really did come down to the recognition from one of my teachers in the second grade who told me I was creative. And I didn't know what that meant, but I knew it made me different from the other students. And it was all because we did a project around how much television we watched. It was actually a math assignment, and we were learning about charts and graphs. And instead of, drawing little televisions for my bar chart or like creating just a square or whatever, what I did is I took the letters T and V and I connected them. And that's how the measures and the chart. And my teacher said, "Oh my gosh, that is so smart. That's so creative." And through that, I knew that it was okay. Doing something different was okay. I knew that everybody else would draw. I knew that everybody else would try and emulate the charts and graphs that we'd seen. And it just came to me. So that lit the spark that like, it was okay to step outside of the bounds, outside of the box and do it. So I think that started my journey of creative as an artist. It also helps that my mom is a painter.
Wow.
And so growing up in an environment where I was encouraged to always be creative, to do whatever it is that I wanted to do, explore, figure out creative projects for myself. And growing up in Washington, D.C. with the Smithsonian as the backdrop, when other kids were at the mall hanging out, I was at the Smithsonian, at the museums. I think that's where it started for me.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So second grade, and then also having your mother a painter. So having that background and then spending time in the Smithsonian, what a playground.
Yeah.
What a great ground for a creative. But when did you know that you were going to lean in and pursue art at the level you're pursuing it now?
I think it all started with a conversation that I had. I'd always been creative. Like I said, I always explored. And throughout college, I had taken painting courses and different creative courses, crafting, all these different activities that I would just do socially and have a really good time with. And like, or painting for my home. So every time I moved, I would create a painting for myself, but nothing that I would introduce to other people as these are my paintings. it was just a hobby for me. And late 20s or early 30s, I started to post. At the time Instagram came about, I started to post different things, and people would say, wait a minute, whose painting is that? Where did that come from? And I would say, oh, that's my painting. And they would say, what are you talking about, your painting? I had no idea that you painted. And it wasn't that it was a secret. It just wasn't something that I was actively pursuing. And at the time, my mother retired from work because she had a full-time career. And as she kind of wound down her career, she started to paint more. And we decided that we should do this show together. And it would be really fun, and we could inspire each other and present this work. And we had the challenge of where are we going to do this show? And I started to research. She said, I'll look at galleries and spaces in Washington, D.C. You look at galleries and spaces in the New York, New Jersey area. And I came across Bridge Art Gallery. And Bridge Art Gallery was originally at that time in Bayonne, New Jersey. And went there and wanted to explore the space. And it turned out that this was a Black-owned gallery by a married couple, Chris and Cheryl Mack. And so I'm like, well, this is great. This is a gallery that is run by people that look like me, that they could be my family, my cousins, whatever the case. And went there. And in the first interaction and walking through the gallery, and this is something I know we kind of talked about leading into this, is the moment where you become an artist, the moment, the time someone recognizes you as an artist or you recognize yourself as an artist. In that conversation, Chris Mack, the owner of the gallery, was there. And he said, oh, tell me about yourself. Tell me about your work. And I said, I paint, I create things. And he said, wait a second, are you an artist? And I paint, I'm great. And he's like, no, that's not what I asked you. Are you an artist? And I was like, yeah. He was like, okay, so let's start again. Tell me about yourself. And that's when I was able to say, oh, I'm Bryant Small. I'm an artist. And that's what started the conversation. But it was that immediate challenge, first conversation, to name yourself, identify who you are, own it. You're in an art gallery. And for years, we've had conversations about that moment, but that moment sparked the idea, the concept that I am an artist. I'm not just doing this for fun. It's not a hobby. This is something that I want to pursue, which is the reason I'm in this space asking about the possibility of having a show.
You're an artist. That pivotal moment when you were challenged and you had to make a decision. But I have to tell you, you walked right into it. You walked right into it, and you owned the fact that you're an artist. How did that feel when you think back?
It was amazing. I think because at that moment, it was a turning point. I had so much of it professionally. I was doing really great. Personally, I was going through one of the most tumultuous times I'd ever had personally. And so in a lot of ways, I always say that art saved me. Art gave me a push. It gave me the space to spread my wings. Ultimately, that show ended up happening, being able to do the show with my mom. And I always describe that exhibition for years. My wings were bound by my career, by not opening myself up to the possibility. All of those things, my wings were bound. And in the time that my mother and I did that show, it was as if she had a pair of scissors and she came and cut the string that had my wings bound. And it allowed my full wingspan to come out. I was able to completely show every brightly colored feather that existed, because for so long I was trying to fit myself into all of these corporate roles and had success, but I wasn't my full, complete self. So this moment of someone challenging me to, am I an artist? Being in this space to truly creatively be able to express myself through art, and having the opportunity to do this exhibition with my mother, it was like this moment, this pivotal moment. And I feel like everything shifted at that time. So
Really is.
it was amazing.
It's such a beautiful story to have your mother a part of the legacy and the imagery of having your wings clipped and you were trying to fit in
Yeah.
a box.
It's like I
And you
felt
knew
like
early on,
found.
feel bound. And there's this freedom that came with being able to be a part of that exhibit and to call yourself an artist. Talk about leaning into your calling.
Yeah, and that's what I ultimately ended up having a show called Free to Fly because
Mhm.
of that. I kept seeing that same image, like that's what this felt like. That's what this moment was. And I finally felt that finally I'm free to fly. I can go
Mhm.
as far as I wanted to. I can soar as far as I want to go. And no matter what, I'm not going to fall because art has me.
Art has
And
me.
be okay.
Yeah. Art has me and you'll be okay.
Yeah.
Tell us about your work. What inspires you?
Color.
Mm,
I wear
tell me
black every
more.
single day. I wear black every single day. I always say it's function, not fashion. I'm able to get out of the house in 10 minutes. Shower, throw on some clothes. It's black. It works. It fits. Let's go. With art, it is all about color. It's about texture. I am not inspired by any particular thing because the medium that I work in, alcohol ink, is unpredictable for the most part in the way that I use it. I'm not always certain of how it's going to work or how it's going to turn out because it's a fluid medium that mixes and blends uh, with reckless abandon. So I can think that it's going to be something in this particular color palette and the liquid and the ink start to move and it's out of my control. And then it becomes this time to like execute and experiment and try and work my way out of these corners that I've got myself into. So the inspiration just starts with the color palette. Like, okay, what colors are speaking to me? And sometimes it's not even about that. It's about just going in and getting this creative exercise done. Sometimes I'm able to tap in and get into a zone where I'm not even aware of the actions that I'm taking. I'm not thinking about the techniques that are in my tool belt. I am truly in a different space and just creating. And I can step back and think, wow, how did I even get to that? I'm not able to recreate a painting. It truly just happens. Each one is a one of one. I'm not able to do the exact same thing again. I can embody the techniques, the flow, certain things that I have control over, but not full, creative control over it. But it is about color and movement. And I guess in some ways it's influenced by the music that I listen to. So
Mm,
while I'm creating, I'm always listening to music. It's always something upbeat, more like
mhm.
house. It may be house or dance music that I'm listening to in order to kind of get the energy going.
It's fascinating. Fascinating. So there are a couple of things I'm hearing. You use a specific medium. Tell us more about the medium and why you selected this particular medium to work with.
So the medium that I work in primarily is alcohol ink. It
Mhm.
is a high pigmented dye or high pigmented ink that when it comes into contact with 91% rubbing alcohol, it causes the inks to move around. And it works best on non-porous surfaces. So glass, metal, tile, or the surface that I paint on is UPO paper, which is a synthetic paper made of recycled plastics. So you can also think about UPO as, on a bottle of dish detergent. The label itself, or they're usually super pigmented, high color, high gloss. But when the bottle gets wet, the paper never wrinkles. If you think about for soap detergent, for any type of dish detergent, that label always stays intact, no matter how many times you wet the bottle. And that's because typically that paper is made of UPO paper. It's just super thin, but it holds color really, really well. It's waterproof. It's not easily torn. So that's one way that it uses. But what draws me to alcohol ink, again, it goes back to my mother. She did a number of tours at the Smithsonian Institute. She would do, because my mom is still based in DC primarily, she would do a lot of art tours. And one of those art tours, I feel like I've told this story a million times, but she saw a woman with a brightly colored necklace. And she asked her, what is that? Because we love jewelry. And so there's like jewelry sitting around everywhere, like near me, with color and beading and everything. But she asked this woman, what is that? And the woman said, oh, this is alcohol ink on dominoes.
Wow. Alcohol ink on dominoes.
Because alcohol ink works well on non-porous surfaces. And dominoes are typically acrylic or resin. And so it doesn't absorb the ink. The ink was sitting on the surface and had all of this texture and beauty. And at that moment, she said, I have to find out what in the world alcohol ink is. And just a couple weeks later, she reached out to me and was like, you have to try this. And she came to town and we sat at my dining room table, covered it in plastic, and something clicked. So it wasn't that I chose alcohol ink. Alcohol ink chose me.
Sounds like it.
It just clicked that this is different, because all the painting that I'd done in the past were acrylic, things that I've done for myself, as a hobbyist in my home, playing around with acrylics and different materials and mixed media and all those things, but nothing felt like this. I felt like this is something I can own. I know I can own this. I know that I can do this. We can elevate this. And so I would like to think that we've done that.
I think you have. And I say this again, it's amazing that your mother's there. You're able to work together. There's this collaborative effort and spirit that goes into a body of work. And there's this discovery that's there as well.
Always. Each time I paint, it's something new. There are certain techniques or things that I have done in the past that I can always tap into, but each experience is so brand new. And so I'm very often, when I see one of my pieces, I'm able to go back to that moment because it's these unique memories. The lines don't blur together. I may not remember every title, but typically I can recall when I created a piece, the time of year. I can remember the music or something identifiable in that moment that takes me back to that painting.
Wow. So you talked about being in the zone and when you're in the zone. Take us through the creative process. What does that look like? So you have music, is it UPO paper, you have your alcohol ink,
and everywhere.
And there's ink everywhere.
So there's ink everywhere. My studio, I always say, if you don't want ink on it, do not bring it in my studio because I paint with everything. So it could be a wine bottle, a flip-flop. I've painted with plastic forks and knives. I've painted with tubes of bubbles, like kids' bubbles, bottles of aspirin, bottoms of different plates and saucers. I use everything around me. Plastic, saran wrap, anything that you can think of is up for being painted. I don't have a boundary like, no. These are things that I would never do in my paintings. I've tried all types of things in order to get texture and color and everything. And it comes down to being in the zone. Sometimes I am working against trying not to let the inks blur. So let me take a step back. In starting my process, there's certain rules that I do have in place. Even though I do free fly and flow, I don't use black in my work typically. And I don't use brown. So the painting behind me on the wall has no black ink. It is just the layering and the combinations of all the inks blurring together and me typically going to the deeper layer of the ink, trying not to have a painting turn black or the color that I call depression brown, which is like this muddy burgundy brown that I cannot work myself out of. There's a certain tone that happens where no matter how much ink I add, I can't get out of that space. So to make it easier for me to not end up there, don't use blacks. I don't use browns either, so that I have a fair shot at getting all these vibrant colors in there without having those dark tones take over. I can still get to brown. I can still get to black when I need to, but typically I won't.
Your piece is amazing. So for listeners, you're unable to see the piece. It's amazing. Vibrant colors. You just see the light, but there are hints of black. You do see black in this piece, but you didn't use black.
Yeah, I try not to, unless my intention is to do like a monochromatic piece, then I will. It's very rare for me to have a brown dominant painting. So there's only a few of them because of that. And it has nothing to do with mood or even though I call it depression brown, it's just about back into a corner and not being able to get out of that. It's just not something that I'm drawn to. So I have a few that are out there that I'm like, okay, I don't hate it. I don't
hate it.
Okay. But I realize that my painting isn't for me. I'm not painting for me. So there are lots of pieces that I don't have necessarily an immediate connection to that I think, that's not great. That painting may be someone's wow. I've had people say, this painting reminds me of my grandmother. This takes me back to a specific moment. This reminds me of the light shining through the window after my divorce. So like there's so many different things that art can bring up for people, and I don't have to like it. It doesn't, as long as it's a piece that I'm not embarrassed to put my name to. I'm not going to put out purposeful, ugly work. I'm not going to do that. But if it's a finished piece that I can see my technique, I can see a style, it's identifiable that, okay, this is me. I don't have to love the work. I don't have to love it because it's not for me. There are so many paintings that I love that the reaction sometimes is, and that's pretty. And that's it. And that's not the space that I want to be in. I don't want to be in that. That's pretty. I want people to feel something from it. And so if that means that it's a work that I don't feel a connection to, but the collector feels a connection to, for whatever reason, it's not my job to keep them from it.
What advice do you have for an artist who is struggling with being an artist?
Give yourself time. It will come. Your power and your ownership of being an artist will happen when it's supposed to happen. And it goes back to that conversation. The first time it happened for me was because at that moment, I was being challenged to identify myself, but the timing was right and I was ready. That moment will happen for every artist where you don't question. And sometimes it could be about finishing a piece of art and you look back and you're able to say, oh, I did that. I did that. That feels different. And when that happens, you may not say it aloud, but in your heart, you are an artist. And you just give yourself time. That moment will come.
What have you learned about yourself through the process of becoming an artist or owning being an artist? Because it sounds like you've always been an artist.
Yeah, in my heart. Yeah, I've always been an artist. Just needed to say out loud and be challenged to say it out loud. But what have I learned? I always say that art is my superpower. Art and creativity, they are my superpowers. I know that that's something that no one can take from me. It's something that's in my veins. It's in my blood. And I can't help but to be creative. I can't help but to get this color out of me. Also, I learned that it doesn't have to be perfect. I don't need inspiration to create. Sometimes I have to go in when I feel like I'm locked, which I don't believe in artist block. I don't believe in creative block. I don't. Go and do what your superpower is. Something will happen. You are in the driver's seat. Go in your studio, go in your space and write and paint until something happens. It will happen. Give yourself grace. It will happen. This is your job. This is your passion. This is your love. You can absolutely do it. Don't tap into your creative juices have run out. That doesn't exist. You are a superhero. You can do whatever it is that you put your mind to. So if that means that you have to go for a couple days and it doesn't work, that doesn't mean that you're tapped out. Don't buy into that. There's a block in your creative energy. That's not real. Own that. Go back. Keep going. Go back. And that one thing that you have balled up that piece of paper, the next day you may come and open it back up and say, wait a second, there's something there. There's something there. Don't give up on yourself and don't buy into that. The creative juices have run out. I'm having a creative block. Don't buy it. I don't buy it.
Amazing advice. Keep going. You are a superhero.
Superhero.
Art is your superpower.
Yes.
I love that. I just love that. I mean, we need to put our capes on and to show up. How often are you showing up to create?
I show up. That's the gift. Dealing with art every day. Now there's a shift where it doesn't only have to be my art. I'm being fed constantly by the artists that I see and curating spaces and creating experiences for people to learn about art and experience art in their own way. I get to kind of craft that. And so I get fed by that every single day. So I get to show up in art every single day.
You stand in that space.
It was a choice, and that choice has come at a cost. Like I'd worked in corporate for 25 years in advertising and marketing and made it through, the changes in the entertainment industry and advertising and like the early 2000s and September 11th and the different financial crises that we've been through and working in corporate and downsizing and all of those things I've been through in my corporate career and made me strong, because that's the other thing. Art is not for the faint of heart.
Art isn't. It really isn't.
Art is not for the faint of heart, but I attribute my quote unquote success in art to having a creative mind, but also a mind for business and understanding that art is a business and that I have to negotiate. I have to understand contracts. Sometimes I have to be tough. It can't just be pretty paintings on a wall. You have to know your business. So being in those spaces in corporate helped me to get to where I am. But working in art, you don't make a lot of money being in arts administration. And being a curator, it takes years to make money. And so though I am financially in a different space than I was 5 years ago, the reward is being able to work in art every single day.
It sounds rewarding.
I'm getting paid in a different way. That doesn't help with the mortgage always. It doesn't help with the phone bills, all the other things, but I'm working in a different way. I'm being fed in a different way.
Different capacity. Absolutely. And you are a curator. Tell us more about being a curator and what first sparked your interest in curation.
So it started by wanting to make sure that my art was presented in the best way possible, that the artists around me had the best presentation of their work. And that's just my business mind is thinking, what good is this art if it's not shown in the way that it should be? And so that's the same for activating spaces for art, curating shows for friends, being in the process with people and saying, you know what, I don't want you to just turn this over to this gallery for them to like this poorly. I want to help. And that's really what started it, is there's nothing worse for an artist to make it into like their first group exhibition and walk in and be disappointed with your placement. Or you walk in and you think, gosh, why they put me on that wall? Why wouldn't I been on this wall? I wish I had more lighting. Like, this is so dim over here. All of those different things, I realized that I could actually change that. I could actually make sure that work is shown in the way that it should be shown. So my first mind and my first position is as an artist. I'm thinking, if this is my body of work, how do I want my work to be shown?
Yes.
And so I always say I curate from the artist perspective and making sure that they can be proud of the work and the way that it's presented. But it all just comes from me wanting to help people. I'm a helper. I've always wanted to be a connector and help people to grow in their careers or whatever their aspirations are. And it just so happens that in my time over the years, I've become pretty well connected with people in the art world and being able to connect and create opportunities for people and activate spaces to show art for underrepresented communities, underrepresented artists. And it's just been this journey that's taken me to curation and creating opportunities directly for artists and for the institutions that I started off being a freelance curator, activating space for different real estate companies. And then it became, I started getting calls from different arts organizations saying, we have a group show that we would love a curator for. And one opportunity led to the next opportunity. And then I started to get calls to curate shows for museums and do guest curating for other shows and exhibitions, working with different galleries and curating their gallery shows and exhibitions. And it's been amazing.
And I want to say this is attributed to you owning being an artist and being in the space, recognizing that you want to advocate and help others, and then being able to use the fact that you are an artist, you are a creative, to marry the two.
Yeah.
And as a curator and an artist, how has embracing both roles deepened your connection to your creative calling?
I think it helps because I'm exposed to art all the time and I'm inspired artists to do amazing things. Naturally drives me to create more. I think it's just a different hat also, is that in order to be an artist, a working artist and a curator, you can't be thinking about your personal art career. So it does come at a cost that I'm not doing as many exhibitions as I normally would have. I've done over 400 exhibitions in the last 10 years. I've done a lot. At one point, I felt like I was at every envelope opening, it had a piece of my art on the wall, no matter what it was. I would do any type of exhibition. You need artwork, I got it, whatever the case is. And that's afforded me lots of opportunities. But now, wearing my curator hat, though there are exhibitions that I'm curating that I was like, oh, I would love to include my work in this, I try and keep those worlds separate. And so I have to feed my art in a different way and get that push, that energy through helping others and still keeping my studio practice going, still finding time to drop down some ink and see what happens and just have a moment with the ink when I have free time. So it just looks different. There was a time that I was painting every single day. But now what I do is I make sure that I'm doing something creative, whether it be my painting, whether it be curating or doing my creative face painting as a social media influencer. There's something that I'm doing every single day to get that superpower exercised.
I love this. The superpower exercise.
Yeah.
And there are just so many ways that you're expressing yourself. You are a visual artist, curator, and social media influencer. How do you marry all of these roles?
With lots of coffee.
With
coffee and realizing that I'm not always going to be my best rested self. And give myself grace for that because I want to do it all. And so if that means that I'm a little tired, that's okay. I always say I can sleep when I'm dead, but that's not, as I get older, that's not the truth. I do try and catch a nap when I can, get rest when I can. In order to do all these things, I have to let the passion push me because sometimes I'm just tired, but I know that I need to create another look. I have contracts and responsibilities with being an artist and being an influencer in the makeup and beauty space. I have to think about that. And I'm not by any means some huge creator, but I've worked hard to create an audience and a community of people that show up and want to see me create live. Just so happens that it is makeup But I just look at it as that I'm just creating art on my face. It's just another canvas. I try and create these makeup looks in the same way that I go about creating my artwork, not coming in with any photos, not coming in with any inspiration, and just letting it happen in the moment. And all of these things fit together as a result of the work that I was doing, in addition to curating and at the time working in my corporate life. I was also teaching, an adjunct professor at a local university, and teaching courses that bridge the gap between art and business. Is why I was brought onto the faculty for these courses. There aren't a lot of college opportunities or college courses that teach artists about their business, that teach artists about contracts. So that's why I was brought into the faculty. And one of the things, because of my background work in my career in advertising and social media, it's about teaching that to the next generation of artists. I had a course scheduled. I was scheduled to teach a course in social media, and it was going to be completely online because we were in the thick of the COVID epidemic. And at the time in 2020, TikTok was taking over, this app where people were using music and dancing and everything to get their brand messages across. And I thought, I need to learn this. So I created this account just to learn intimately for myself how it worked, how to function, what were the analytics like. And then I realized is that I needed to be able to do that from both perspectives. As a viewer, I needed to understand TikTok. As a potential creator, I needed to understand, but I needed to understand the back end as well in order to teach it. I needed to understand the functionality, the algorithm, how the platform was built. And so I thought, well, I'll post a video. Maybe I'll post a video of one of my paintings. And then I realized, no, I don't want to muddy these worlds. I want to keep my art separate. So what can I do that, it'll be fun? I was like, oh, well, I've always wanted to be a makeup artist. So I'll start that. Let me do a couple makeup videos. Nobody will know that I'm here. So I can learn TikTok and then be able to teach my students, and it will be fine. Well, the problem is that people started following, and then more people started following. And I thought, okay, well, that's great. I'm applying the rules and techniques that I've known about building a brand, been able to do that. But now that means I got to keep this up. Like, okay, well, this is fun, but it's not that fun. And then monetization started to happen. And I thought, well, wait a second, this is another stream of income. I can continue to do this. And so it became this new opportunity for me to use my superpowers in a different way.
I love this. Do you believe social media helps artists? Do you
Yeah,
believe that it is a tool that artists should take advantage of and utilize?
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And the reason why is because social media has shifted the art world in a way that we've never seen before. In the past, it has always been about getting representation from a gallery in order to be, quote unquote, successful in your art career. And what that did is that allowed the gallery system and the big bad art world to be gatekeepers and to show artists only that they deem to be acceptable artists. And it's weird to be in the space that I'm in, being a part of that engine, being part of the gallery system, being a part of the museum art world, but also understanding the power of social media and individual artists having the power to get their message and their work across the world without anyone being able to stop them. And that's what social media has done. It has turned the power over to artists. I shouldn't say the power, the opportunity over to artists to create their own spaces. You don't need a gallery owner in order to get someone in Iceland to see your work, to get someone in London to see your work, to get someone in Mexico to see your work. Wherever the case is, there's no bounds in how social media can carry your work. Social media gives you the opportunity to go beyond your neighborhood without having someone take a commission. Social media puts you in a place that you can sell your work directly. Someone could come across your work and say, oh my gosh, I need that in my home, and not have to give 50% to a gallery.
That's powerful.
It's tough, but it's another job, it's another gig. But you have to be willing to do that if you want to be successful. It would be amazing for every artist to have gallery representation, to have their work go around the world on someone else's dime, and you just have to financially cover yourself. Give them a portion of your sales. With social media, you don't have to do that. The model is a little different. You can create your own website. Having your own space gives you the opportunity to tell the message and talk about your work in the way that you want to talk about it without boundaries. I think it's very worth it.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like it's worth it to be able to just create your own model.
Yeah.
And create your space and not be a part of the engine just yet, but market and keep a lot of the financials.
One of my early years in art, I realized that one, and this goes in, and it's not necessarily gallery system, price your work the way that it should be priced.
Oh, what does that mean? How does someone know how to price their work? Just starting out.
Come up with a formula, whether that be a cost per square inch, make sure, or take into account all of the work that, all of your expenses. What are your overhead costs as an artist? How much are you spending on supplies? How much are you spending on your website in order to get your work out? And back that up into your pricing. Make sure that you are paying yourself for the work as an employee, that you are paying yourself. Think about how much time you are spending creating, and give yourself an hourly wage. Think about it that way. Give yourself an hourly wage. Think about the cost of your supplies and price your work accordingly. But I always say, give yourself a formula and something that you can prove that it makes sense that you're pricing your work that way. If someone challenges your work, challenges your prices, you could say, wait a second, I spend X, Y, and Z on my supplies. I have a studio that I spend this much time working on it, and that's why my pricing is the way that it is. You got to know your work, but you also have to know that people are not paying you $45,000 for a painting when you've never sold a painting before, unless it is something so mind-blowing, life-changing. So start slow, but still don't undervalue your work.
You mentioned that you're teaching.
Yes.
And I'm sure that based on all of the experience that you bring to the table, you've seen pattern in artists and you've seen mistakes. What do you wish that artists knew as they started their creative journey?
That art is a business. That art is a business. I started a consulting company. Art is the brand because of that. Your art is your brand. It is a business. It is not just pretty pictures on the wall. You have to think about your art as a startup company. You don't want to, out the gate, you have to think about your goals. You have to think about your objectives. You have to think about how do you want people to recognize you as an artist? How do you want to show up? What is your brand voice? All of those things artists should be thinking about from the beginning. I think that's what it's a business. Art is a serious business. And like I said before, it is not for the faint of heart. And so I wish that artists understood that in order to get involved in the art world is that you have to know your business. First thing before I sign any contract is always think about how do I get out of the contract? It's the first thing. Before you sign any contract, what happens if I need to get out of it? And artists are sometimes so enamored with the opportunity that someone finally sees their work, that they recognize their work, that they want to work with them, that they forget that everybody is not on your side in business. They are trying to make money and you need to cover yourself so that you can make more money. And so that's what I wish every artist knew, that it's a business. It's not just, it's as much as we'd like to think that it's, oh, I just did an amazing piece, period. It's so much more than that. It's so much more.
Tell us about your work with KAAI. How did that collaboration come to life? And how does technology like generative AI fit into your creative philosophy?
The initial part of my relationship with Kai just started with a conversation about artists and about income and about how artists have had their work stolen to become products for different things. I've had a number of friends, and it's happened to me as well, where you do an image search of your work and you find out that your painting has become a shower curtain on Temu, or your painting is being used in a hotel as art in each hotel room. I had that happen to me where one of my paintings that I posted online early on in my career were being used in hotels as like you know how you go into a hotel room and there's art in the space?
Yes.
The watermark, I had a watermark in my work and it was in there and they never realized it. And so you have to be conscious of things like that that are happening. But that's what started the conversation, that artists need to be in control of their work. And in an age where AI engines are utilizing artists' work to entertain people, to in these social media platforms, having people be able to, type in a few words and get a piece of art that's, being output. And the algorithm is not taking into account all of the artists that have physically created work. And so what we wanted to do at KAAI is create an opportunity for artists to create their own algorithms around their work so that there aren't outside sources being fed into this algorithm when it came to your work. The algorithm is protected and only references your work in order to generate new works. Those generative AI works are original works of art from that artist because the algorithm is only based on their work. And then what we do is provide the opportunity, if that artist so chooses, to do art prints, to do different products, which affords artists the opportunity to make more income from their work while not interfering with physical work that they have out in their gallery careers. And so it provides that opportunity to be a part of the technology conversation, not let the technology get ahead of you, and you are in the driver's seat. We work closely with artists to make sure that they do things, or that we're doing things that they are comfortable with because it's their work. And that's what got me started with working with Kaleidoscope and KAAI. So KAAI is the overarching software. Kaleidoscope is the application that we use for artists. And so
That's amazing.
knowing that AI technology, I could create an algorithm that when the output comes out and it's too close to my painting, I can say, whoa, 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 that's too much. That's too much like my work, because of the fear of no artist wants to be replaced.
Right.
And I wanted to say that when it comes to AI, artists cannot be replaced. No matter what algorithm it is, because of the sheer experiences that each artist, the heart and soul of what an artist does not come through in an algorithm.
It doesn't.
It's passion, it's purpose, it's intention. All of those things before you've done anything leads your process and puts you in there. An algorithm isn't going to do that. Now, an algorithm may be able to emulate what you do, but it is not going to replace you. It can be used as an apprentice, as a partner, as a starting point for when you tap into that moment where you think you have creative block, that you're able to go to a space and say, you know what if I use this to generate an idea? What if I did this, this, and this in my work? What would that look like? And have the platform say, this is something that you could use. This is all your work. You created these marks in the past. We've reworked it in order to show you what's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's fascinating, and AI is shifting the narrative for artists, for creatives, not just visual artists, but writers. It's just something that we have to continue to study.
Yeah.
and be aware of some of the challenges that'll come up because people are stealing. How can artists protect themselves when they're leveraging social media to sit in a space to be able to market their work without being in a gallery?
Yeah, well, there's so many things. I mean, you could go through copyright, trying to get your work copywritten, but that is very difficult to do. But there are certain things I can tell you that I do. I very rarely show the entire painting when I post it. So there may be a trim size that maybe a half inch of the full painting is cut off. If I see that that's reproduced, that's not my work. That's not the full painting. Watermarks are important. I did that early on, watermarks, or sometimes do videos of the piece versus a static photo. I use my static photos for submissions or working with the gallery to send it directly to them. But to just throw your painting up on a white surface or a blank background, you're asking for trouble. You can do a screenshot, a screen capture, and people have your work in order to reprint it. So just be mindful of the way that you utilize social media in order to get the word out. People still want to see the work in person very often. So if you're concerned about, a potential buyer not seeing it in person, very often they want to see it in person, or at least do a video call, something to see the work physically. So you don't necessarily need to show the entire work for people to have a connection or an experience to the work.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. If you could speak with your younger self, what you say?
I say to my younger self. So weird, because as an artist, being a creative all my life, my sensibility is very similar. I think that's kind of what drives me being able to be creative. But I think I may say, you can actually make a career out of this. And I go to, when you ask that question, it takes me back to being a kid and playing the game of life. So I don't know if people remember the game of life. It's the spinning wheel on the middle. And when you first start the game, you have to get your job and your family in the beginning. Like, how many are you going to get married? What job are you going to do? And I always wanted to fall on the artist space. Always, always, always. There was a space where you could be an artist and you made I think it was like your payday is every time you went past payday, you would get like $600. But I always wanted to be an artist. And so now doing that in real life, I think this could be real for you. You can really do this. It's not a game.
It's not a game.
It's not a game. You can really do this.
This is real life. This is real life.
I think that's what I tell myself, is that you can really do this. You can really be an artist. It doesn't have to be the game of life.
Looking ahead, what's on the horizon for you creatively or professionally that you're excited about?
So much. Some of the stuff I'm not going to talk about yet.
Oh, no.
And that's just because my ideas can be so big. But I want to bring all my worlds together.
Okay.
I will say what's on the horizon is bringing all of my worlds together. The art, the makeup, the curating. I'm working on bringing it all together. And because I've worked so hard in keeping these worlds separate. And that's because before I had my corporate life and I had my art life. Now my corporate life is my art life. And so I just want to be able to take all of these opportunities that I've had, taking the paintings, taking the makeup and these faces and bringing them together in a very special way. So that's what I will say. What's on the horizon is having all of these worlds come together in a unique way.
I love it. I love it. Sounds exciting. And if listeners take away one message from your journey, what do you hope it is?
Keep going. Bet on yourself. Trust your superpower. Trust it. Believe in it. Don't believe in creative block. You are a superhero. You can do anything. Believe that. Trust that. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. Even on the days where you feel like, what the hell am I doing? Why am I doing this? I'm not making any money. Nobody's seeing my stuff. Trust it. It's going to happen one way or the other. It's going to happen. In order to play the game, you got to be in the game. You have to be in it. So keep going, even when it feels like it's not working. Keep going.
Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you want to share?
I hope that people understand that there's a space that you can navigate your art career from, where you can be a part of the system. You can maintain your identity as an individual artist, and there's still room for you to grow in different ways in different spaces. You can wear many different hats. I've always hated the idea that people can say, like, you're a jack of all trades and a master of none, because you're doing so many things. I can do anything I put my mind to. And so I can be more than one thing. Nobody get to tell me who I get to be. I get to determine who I am and how I move around the art world. Authenticity, being exactly who you are, can open more doors than you'll ever believe. And I think that's what has helped also, is it is having a mind for business and a heart for creativity, but it also is me showing up exactly as myself, unapologetically. There's space for everybody to create that space for themselves. There's room for everybody.
Love it. Amazing. Thank you. Where can our listeners find you?
Everywhere. You can find me. My website is bfly777.com if you wanted to see the artwork. In the social media space, on my art is bfly777. Know your brand. So that's important. So the bfly777 is present in a lot of things that I do. My makeup Instagram is bfly777 faces. And so you get art, you get the faces that I've created. And on TikTok, I'm also bfly777.
I just have to say thank you so much for being a guest on the show. I'm inspired, and I know our listeners will be inspired as well. Thank you, and I hope you'll join us again.
Yes, this was fun.
Thank you for joining Let's Talk Passion and Purpose. I hope you're leaving inspired and ready to elevate your journey. Remember to subscribe, rate, and share if you enjoyed today's episode. Stay connected, follow your passion, live purposefully, and we'll see you next time.